Orleans Pelicans won 21 games this season, and unlike other teams with fewer than 25 wins who shamelessly embraced the long and ugly tanks, the Pelicans took the honorable route. No gimmicks or strategic losing, my Pelicans decided to fail the old-fashioned way, by genuinely trying their hardest. Even when it was painfully obvious that the season was over, the Pelicans were still doing everything that they could to win. They just weren't good enough. Up until mid to late March, the New Orleans Pelicans were still playing veteran-heavy lineups loads of minutes. Zion Williamson, Trey Murphy, and CJ were all playing big minutes. When Trey Murphy tore his labrum and partially tore his rotator cuff in what was a 127-81 blowout loss against the Detroit Pistons March 8th, it was like the New Orleans Pelicans finally started to get the message. Shut these guys down and don't lose your position in the lottery for what's going to be a great draft. Zion Williamson, Trey Murphy, and CJ would all eventually be shut down, but for some reason, veteran Bruce Brown would continue to take away minutes from younger players who were actually in the team's future plans. A few days ago, I actually tweeted that those minutes that Bruce Brown was getting towards the end of the season were terrible for my health. Not only was Bruce Brown hard to watch as a New Orleans Pelican, but his contract expired at the end of the season, and since it's expired, he's done nothing but flirt with going back to his ex. Playing this guy a ton of minutes to close the year never made any sense. But we're at the point to where I have to say that I can't even blame him, because only the universe knows where the New Orleans Pelicans are headed. But before we continue, if you are enjoying the content and you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss out on any of our future content. And also, be sure to drop a like as it only helps the channel grow. The New Orleans Pelicans started this offseason off hot. They'd waste no time firing their president of basketball operations, David Griffin. The New Orleans Pelicans would go 209 and 263 under Griffin, amassing 2 postseason appearances. David Griffin's tenure in New Orleans is famously marked by orchestrating that blockbuster Anthony Davis trade and his curious handling of the Zion Williamson situation, a predicament that he got himself into the same summer that he became the president of basketball operations. When Zion Williamson entered the NBA, the possibilities were endless. He had the rare chance to script his own legacy, to become not just a star but something that we would never forget. Zion wasn't merely a great talent, he was a force that could redefine the game itself. Just listen to how this scouting report from Hoops Hype described him: a force of nature, an unfair combination of brute strength, athleticism, and skill. Already is a playmaker, can jump out of the gym and run the floor with the best of them. He must develop his perimeter game, but he's a devastating force already as is. He has NBA legend potential. It's not hard to picture him as the most dominant player in the NBA in a few years. They also cautioned that his weight would ultimately shape the trajectory of his career, highlighting concerns about injuries that had already begun to surface early on. Much to David Griffin's dismay, these pre-draft fears soon transformed into a frustrating reality that he had no choice but to deal with. In New Orleans, Zion's weight has been a continuous concern, frequently grabbing headlines. Reports emerged at one stage suggesting that the Pelicans were seriously scared that his weight had reached north of 300 pounds. Zion Williamson is 6'6". This season, Zion Williamson would play in 30 games. Marking the 4th time in 6 years that he's failed to play in more than 30 games. If you're wondering why people have kept coming back, it's because Zion does things like this. According to ESPN, Zion Williamson is the only player in NBA history to average at least 15 points in the paint per game, while shooting 55% or better in each of his first 5 seasons played. This season, with reports saying that Zion Williamson was slimmer than he was at Duke, we saw Zion Williamson get into the best shape of his career and dominate on both sides of the ball. Before he was inevitably shut down for the season, he averaged 24.6 points, 7.2 rebounds, 5.3 assists, while also recording 0.9 blocks and 1.2 steals per game. He wasn't healthy for long, but during those moments that he was on the court this season, Zion looked like a man on a mission, ready to silence his doubters and reward those who never stopped believing in him. The weight problems and the durability concerns have been undeniable, but his talent has kept people coming back, including David Griffin. After all, nobody wants to be remembered as the person who prematurely gave up on a legend. History tends to judge those kinds of decisions pretty harshly. After firing David Griffin, the New Orleans Pelicans would hire Joe Dumars to be their next president of basketball operations. As an executive, Joe has been a part of some really bad teams. He was the guy who drafted Darko Milicic over Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. He was also the guy who committed crimes against basketball, putting together a lineup of Andre Drummond, Josh Smith, and Greg Monroe. It honestly wasn't the worst lineup ever, but I just hated the way that it was constructed. As an executive, Joe Dumars has also been a part of some really good teams. He led the Detroit Pistons to 7 straight seasons of winning 50 games or more. The Pistons have 14 50-win seasons in their franchise's history, and they have Joe Dumars to thank for half of those. He also brought another championship to Detroit. Initially, I hated the New Orleans Pelicans bringing on Dumars, but ever since it's happened, I've sort of warmed up to this addition. If he's won a championship as an executive before, and had 7 straight winning seasons, maybe, just maybe, the game hasn't completely passed him by yet, and maybe, just maybe, there's some magic that's still left in that tank. I would like this move a lot more if the New Orleans Pelicans let Joe Dumars hire his own coach. You would think that something like this would be a common courtesy when the team has consistently been bad. We're only a month or so into Joe Dumars' tenure with the Pelicans, and it wouldn't surprise me if he was already thinking to himself, why in the world did I take this job and leave my cushy job working at the league office? Out of the gate, Joe Dumars has been tasked with picking up where David Griffin left off and handling what has been one of the most difficult situations in the league to handle, the Zion Williamson situation. The New Orleans Pelicans chose Zion Williamson to represent them at the NBA Draft Lottery, a strategic move reportedly designed by the front office to signal their commitment to building around Williamson as the team's centerpiece. Even though the NBA Draft Lottery was a nightmare scenario for us Pelicans fans, seeing our team slip 3 spots from its original position, everything didn't seem all bad. I could have easily envisioned the New Orleans Pelicans selecting a rising talent like Noah Nsingwe or Kamen Malawash, building an exciting roster around Zion Williamson and Trey Murphy, 2 stars whose skills meshed perfectly. But just as my cautious optimism began to set in, Zion Williamson once again found his name in headlines for all of the wrong reasons. On May 30th, it would come out that a woman identified as Jane Doe came forward accusing Zion Williamson of being an abusive and manipulative predator throughout a relationship that began during his freshman year at Duke and reportedly continued until 2023. The woman is seeking monetary damages, including punitive damages for emotional distress. A source told ESPN that the woman is seeking anywhere from $18 million to $50 million. Zion's attorney dropped a statement basically denying everything and saying that Zion and the woman never even dated, but they did maintain a consensual casual relationship that ended years ago, and that only after their friendship ended did she end up demanding millions of dollars. They continued saying that these attempts were reported to law enforcement and that basically they're ready to fight this whole thing and that the truth will come to light. Either way, these allegations are deeply disturbing and extremely serious in nature. These are accusations that nobody would ever want their name connected to, and right now, they're connected to Zion's. Then, things took another turn for Zion Williamson, as the same woman that he'd previously had issues with in the past resurfaced. But according to TMZ Sports, her case here would be one that not even Tony Busby would touch, which is pretty telling. If you're the New Orleans Pelicans, how much longer can you keep doing this whole Zion Williamson thing? Not only are you having trouble making sure that he's consistently available, but regardless of if it's his fault or not, you're also seeing him have to deal with ridiculous situations off the court too. Everything that has come with him has been a nightmare to deal with. Remember that the New Orleans Pelicans also had to suspend Zion Williamson earlier this season for being late to a team flight, with Coach Willie Green saying that this was just one of several occasions that led up to his suspension. Also keep in mind that there was a troubling stalker situation earlier this year involving the mother of Zion's child and a rival love interest. This incident reportedly left Pelicans ownership livid, and it was widely viewed as the final straw for the franchise. I can definitely see why ownership and a new VP of basketball operations would want nothing to do with Zion Williamson at this point in time. Sometimes, you just want to have that clean slate, which now might be where the New Orleans Pelicans are headed. On the same day that those earlier allegations surfaced, Reports emerged indicating that the New Orleans Pelicans don't consider anyone on their roster untouchable. As the report explicitly states, there are no untouchables in New Orleans. League sources say that the Pelicans are gauging the trade market for everyone on their roster. They very well could end up keeping their core pieces, namely Zion Williamson. But it appears the Pelicans are looking into different paths this summer, depending on what opportunities become available. When I saw this, I was tight. The Pelicans traded Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Josh Hart, Dyson Daniels, Brandon Ingram, and a number of picks to build around Zion Williamson. And I didn't like any of that, but I put up with it. Where I draw the line is at this team trading Herb Jones or Trey Murphy, all because the Zion Williamson experiment failed. Get rid of Zion if you have to. Don't get rid of Herb Jones or Trey Murphy. Check out this post that I put out the other day. I wrote this one with my heart, and Pelicans Nation had my back. I said that if Trey Murphy gets traded, that staying loyal to the New Orleans Pelicans would become incredibly difficult. I'd still support the team, but my fandom for Trey Murphy would take priority, because it would be tough to have unwavering faith in a franchise that hasn't given me any reason to trust them. I can't keep showing up to the circus and expecting there to not be clowns. As someone who closely follows the Pelicans, moving Trey Murphy would be nothing short of catastrophic for the franchise. Standing at 6'9", he's a rare blend of elite athleticism, exceptional shooting range, and an evolving handle that's only getting sharper. Murphy is exactly the kind of talent that once you secure it, you just enjoy the ride. You never consider trading guys like this prematurely, especially not because the roster around him isn't championship ready yet. He's a cornerstone that you build around, not an asset that you let go before he even hits his prime. I think that Trey Murphy has top 10 player in the league potential. This season, Trey Murphy averaged 21.2 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 3.5 assists, shooting 45.4% from the field and 36.1% from deep. He really had an all-star worthy season this year. He genuinely loves New Orleans, brings invaluable positivity to the locker room, and can play a crucial role mentoring young players even as a young player himself. Trading Trey Murphy would be a huge mistake. But if Trey were to get traded and I had to support him elsewhere, I think that I'd want him in Denver to play with Nikola Jokic. I really went from irrationally convincing myself that the New Orleans Pelicans had a sneaky shot at pairing Giannis with Trey Murphy because of the Pelicans' draft control over the Bucks, to now watching helplessly as every fan base photoshops Trey Murphy into their favorite team's jersey. This was supposed to be a fun offseason. Instead, I'm seeing mock trades for some of my favorite players. In the comments below, let me know what you would do if you were the New Orleans Pelicans. If the Pelicans do blow it up, what are some trades that make sense for them? Anyways guys, there's some more going on in the basketball world that we have to be covering. So clicking one of the videos on the screen right now is a great way to support this channel. I'm GetLikeCoop, bringing you guys the scoop until our next upload.